Monday, April 11th, 2022, regular school board meeting to attention. Please rise for the moment of silence followed by the pledge. We're in a hurry.
Oh my God, she's in like. Fast forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Board members, do we have any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda and superintendent? Nothing?
No, you have two attachments that were added to items 9.01 and 11.03 that you have copies of. Other than that, there were no changes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we are at our approval of the minutes, superintendent.
I recommend approval of the minutes from the school board workshop, March 21st, 2022, and the regular school board meeting, March 28th, 2022.
Board,
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great, thank you. So we are at our representation, which we don't have any tonight, so public input. I have 2 cards for public input. We can start with Aaron Porter.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Cornegate, the meeting that with Ms. Sellis that you spoke of the last time that we talked, it actually did happen, and it was extremely productive. There were many, many ideas suggested to help get school counseling back on track. And I don't want to steal anyone's ideas from that meeting or present them as my own, so I'll just start tonight with one idea that seems to be kind of circulating around all the different schools. It's maybe a rumor, but one with which I completely agree. The testing coordinators should be full-time positions at every elementary, middle, and high school, or maybe a shared full-time position between some of the smaller schools. Here's my rationale. As a supplemental duty, it completely stops the staff member's primary duty. So the question is, which full-time position are we not valuing? Which one don't we need? Do we maybe not need a reading coach for that time? Do we not need school counselors? Do we not need media specialists? Because their job basically does stop to plan for things like PSAT, APM, LSA, FSA, WIDA, EOCs, SATs, ACTs, and others. The testing as a season that it used to be is pretty much a thing of the past. Testing starts at the beginning of the year, and it keeps going until quite literally the last week of school. And this doesn't seem to be something that's going to change with the new legislation that's come down recently. So the question is then, who could do it? This would be a great position for aspiring administrators. It requires a large amount of coordinating, organization, regulation following, technical know-how, and definitely communication. It would also be great for those who want to be in education, have the same breaks as kids, but maybe not actually be in the classroom. If we had a full-time testing coordinator, these are the kinds of things that could happen. Teachers and students wouldn't experience any break in support from the typical support personnel. The reading coach would still be mentoring and coordinating interventions and helping to roll out the district framework. The school counselors would still be working with families, supporting teachers, and meeting with kids, especially during the stressful times leading up to testing. The media specialists would still be able to have students and full classes access the library and provide support for teachers and Chromebook management. Whomever the coordinator for the other programs like ELL, MTSS, Professional Development, 504, ESE, they would all be able to maintain accuracy and effectiveness throughout the year if they didn't have to be testing coordinator on the side. So literally everyone wins. So I'll leave you with a quote that one of my high school colleagues gave me today when I was asking him about it. He said, literally, testing coordinators were the best thing that ever happened to high school coordinators since I've worked here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Cronin?
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. So if you're looking at job postings for the last week or so, there have been about 15 food service jobs, 20 custodial positions, and just under 50 TA positions. $10 an hour is not getting these people to come in and fill out an application. So I'm hoping that, if this $15 an hour goes through, that this will help bring in some of these employees. then I think we just got to worry about keeping the ones that we have here when that happens. I think that right now we've got probably about 25 or more routes that are still open. I don't think we've gone past 20 this year. I think we've had at least 20 routes opened at any time this year. I think maybe it's time we start thinking out of the box. Maybe we could put some information on the district's Facebook page about open positions. I know we did it once for bus drivers, but I've never seen anything else since then. I'd also like to look at trying to put a possible in-house sub list together. We try to get subs from outside the district. We have some employees that don't work 40 hours a week. Maybe they'd be interested in going in and helping out in food service before they start, or going to help out in custodial after they get through with food service. So, you may have some bus drivers or monitors that want to do that also in between days. So I'd like to do, we did look at doing something like that many years ago when we had a custodial shortage. So I think maybe this might be some time we could look at doing this again. The other thing that I don't think I misunderstood, but I think that the $1,000 bonus that's coming up in October will be for all current employees that are here in October. And if that's the case, why aren't we trying to use this as a hiring incentive? So that's all I've got. I know we don't have too much time left this year, but I think we need to try looking at better ways and more incentives to bring our people in and keep our people here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are on our reports. I think I saw Mr. Bryant come in on time. Stressful. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Good evening, Chairman Luke, Superintendent, members of the board. I hope you all had a relaxing spring break. It has been that long since we last saw each other. I want to start off again with some recognitions tonight. So I'm going to congratulate the Leesburg Key Club for raising $10,020 for Dance Marathon, and the East Ridge Dance Marathon that raised $16,412 for Dance Marathon. So Dance Marathon is an event for Children's Miracle Network. Oh, my time is up? Fastest report.
She didn't leave you more time.
Dance Marathon is an event for Children's Miracle Network, an organization that raises money for children's hospitals across the country and also in Canada. The money is used for things like cots for parents to sleep while their children are in the hospital, and it also funds research with the goal to eradicate childhood illness. High schools all across the country do what are called mini marathons, and they are typically 5 to 8 hours, and participants stand the entire time to symbolize the stand against childhood illness. Mini marathons are usually organized by colleges in the region, and that lead up to a main event that is 26 hours of standing and fundraising. Here in Central Florida, we are overseen by the University of Florida, and our proceeds go to Shands Hospital. I would like to congratulate Lake Mineola boys track team for winning a team title last Friday at the Lake and Sumter Championships. On March 25th through the 27th, Leesburg SGA members had the opportunity to attend the Florida Association of Student Councils Conference in Naples, Florida, marking the first time in school history that Leesburg attended the event. I was fortunate enough to give a presentation where I got to highlight all of Lake County with an emphasis on our recent dress code changes. On April 1st, Leesburg hosted Jackets Got Talent and was able to raise money for the Tammy Jerkins Memorial Scholarship. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a scholarship awarded to a senior at Leesburg majoring in education. Some other events last weekend were Tavares and Mount Dora's spring musicals on Friday and Saturday, and Eustis hosted its prom this past Saturday with well over 300 students in Fern Park, right? That's how you say it? Farron, excuse me. Farron Park, that featured a firework display to go along with the prom court crowning. I've been told that all three events were enjoyable and successful. I also have a list from the East Ridge president. They recently produced Sister Act, April 6th through April 9th, with 2 sold-out shows. East Ridge will be hosting their first ever talent show on April 19th in the East Ridge High School Auditorium, and tickets will be $5, with proceeds benefiting the NHS Fund for Individual Service Projects. And then this week, they are hosting their last Spirit Week, leading up to their first in-person pep rally in the past 2 years. So into my report. The SSAC last met on March 25th here in the boardroom. We discussed attendance initiatives for students and have started a review of the district cell phone policy. All of the SSAC members, have taken those two things back to their respective SGAs and will be bringing ideas together at our next meeting. Many of the high schools in the district have begun their elections for next year's officers and have plans to finish those elections before our May meeting in time for us to have a very smooth transition from one group of presidents to the next. And we will be meeting with the constitutional officers of Lake County next week to gain some insight into what they do in their day-to-day lives and how their roles work together. And then we will also be meeting with State Representative Keith Truenow later this week. Something I discussed in a previous report was over 300 students at Gray Middle that had signed a petition about changes to the dress code. And after the principal at Gray Middle reached out to me, we worked out some time next week for me to meet with their student body and also their SGA to talk about the changes that we've made to the dress code and also how to be a little bit more of an active SGA. And lastly, as I stated in my last report, there is a web page with all of our agendas and minutes for anyone to review. It can be found by clicking Our District Superintendent, and you will find Superintendent Student Advisory Committee. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 20th here in the boardroom at 4:30. And were any of you guys going to talk about the fair in your board member comments?
Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say that the fair is happening this week, and I encourage you, if you can, to catch some of the FFA kids showing their steers and bunnies and all that good stuff. And that is my report.
That's a great one. Thank you.
Were there any questions?
Thanks for the work you do. We love seeing you here.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. All right, Carmen, the Ed Foundation. We had a good time on Friday.
I think a good time was had by all
I do
on
too.
Friday. But we did raise about $17,000 for our
Wow.
kiddos, so we
That's
were
awesome.
really excited. Joining me tonight, if you haven't met, we have Casey Edmondson, who is our development director for the foundation with me tonight. Apple Mart has had 913 teacher visits. That is a 3.3% increase over last year during the same time, and we have distributed $68,475 in supplies. Gail is written and received a grant from Bloom and Time Collaborative, which will provide beds, soil, seeds, and irrigation to start the ag program at Academy at Lake Hills South. We received $10,000 from a Duke grant for the 22-23 countywide robotics scrimmage. And our board voted to fund $7,800 to assist for registration for the 13 teams that'll be going to World Vex this year. We are hosting the Lake County Schools Retirement Dinner on May 10th at the Venetian Center, and invitations have been designed, and 136 retirees will be receiving invitations from Ms. Sheila Bennett. Ladies 4, again, was held last Friday, and a good time was had by all. Take Stock in Children has finished tabulating the scores for scholarship awards, and the advisory council will be voting on the recipients next week. We do have 45 scholarships to give out, but after looking at the scores and the results from the interviews, we're recommending that we award only 38 of our 45 scholarships. Scores for the other 17 scholarships that we manage, deadline on Thursday, and so that'll be about 75 to 80,000 that we'll be awarding through those 17 scholarships. The foundation and district communication departments are hosting the Hall of Fame Luncheon on April the 27th at Venetian Center. There will be 4 inductees, and Senator Kerry Baker will be emceeing for us. And I believe you should have received an invitation last month from Sherry Owens. Also that morning, the foundation board is having an in-person strategic planning, and we are bringing in Mark Brewer from the Community Foundation of Central Florida to help us make some decisions about investing in the foundation's sustainability with some extra funds that we have, or whether we want to roll them out into a high-impact project. So if anybody has any comments, we've met with the superintendent and been given a list of district priorities, and we are looking very seriously at the CTE, the pre-K, and the science labs in those 3 areas. Stepping Out for Education will be held on the 29th and 30th at Mission Inn. In addition to Dr. Feltner, who will be doing our encore performance, we have 4 of our dancers confirmed. Lori Myers, who is an AP at Sorrento, Jamie Bach from Jamie and Company Real Estate, Shauna Purdy from Kurt's Air Condition, and David Helton, who is an attorney out of Claremont, have been secured so far, and they'll be starting their lessons the middle of May. And I have to give a shout out to our IT department. It's so refreshing to work somewhere where you need help, you can reach out and get it immediately. Our staff needed some basic training on Google Docs and Google Sheets, and sent out an email, and the next thing I know, we have an employee of the district that's prepared to give us 3 hours of her time undivided. And it's great. So I wanted to give a shout out to IT and Laura Whittam.
Awesome. Did you use the 29th and 30th of May is stepping out?
No, July.
July, that's what, okay. She said 29th and 30th, but their dance lessons would start in May, so I was just trying to figure that
Yeah,
out.
July. Okay, sorry. The Hall of Fame is at 12 o'clock on the 27th of April at the Venetian Center.
Thank you.
Do you
Any
guys
other
have
questions?
questions? Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Steve? Nothing? Sure. All right, I think we're on our agenda, our consent agenda.
We are. I recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 to 10.03.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, it's a 5-0. So we are now on our public hearing. I think, Mr. Johnson, our final approval for our dress and grooming policy.
Yes, ma'am. The next item before the board is final approval of revisions to policy 5511, dress and grooming. If there is anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy change, please come to the podium at this time. Madam Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds great. I thought somebody was coming forward for a minute. Okay, board members, or superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
I do have a recommendation. I recommend final approval of revisions to policy 5511, dress and grooming.
Board?
So moved?
Great.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Perfect, 5-0. All right, Mrs. Cunningham is going to request attending our Florida School Board Association as a representative, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you offer a motion for that too, Superintendent?
I believe that I do. This is a revision to Florida statute that does require that the board approve
I was wondering.
travel.
Thank you.
I move to approve.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. I figured as much, just seeing it on there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I know that Ms. Randall's coming forward. She has a brief presentation for 11.03.
We do. We added this to the agenda, I think, on Thursday as a very time-sensitive issue, and I've asked her to give us a brief overview of the item. There will be no action taken on this item. This is for your information as it goes back to the city with our recommendations, and it will be coming back to you for final approval shortly thereafter.
Okay.
I just waiting on IT to load up the presentation, and I appreciate okay, there we go. I appreciate your time tonight. As the superintendent said, this has some time constraints involved in it. We have committed to open Mineola Area Relief School FF in August of 2024, and the sooner we can resolve the property issues, the sooner we can get started on design and construction of that school and make sure that we meet our commitments. We always like to do that. So the item that is before you that will come back in on April 25th is a memorandum of understanding with the city of Mineola. It is between the city of Mineola, the school board, and the owner and developer of the Hills of Mineola site, Gen Florida. I keep calling them Gen Air. Gen Florida 30. And it's just basically to address some points of agreement regarding the dedication of a 30-acre school site. There's been some differences of opinion between us and the city. And so this is really just to resolve those issues and to try to move forward. We do have proposed school board approval set for April 25th and proposed city approval in conjunction with a change to a development agreement for the Hills of Mineola on May 3rd. So because I always work better with a map, basically this is an idea of where the location is. The Hills of Mineola is a pretty large subdivision. The Lake Mineola High School is located on the very south end. It actually crosses the turnpike along North Hancock Road, and then actually part of it, but an age-restricted part of it, is north of 561A. So the school site is north of the turnpike on the east side of North Hancock Road. And
Is it the star on that map, Kelly?
it was a
Okay.
star on that map,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Little more detail. So we had originally identified, or the developer had originally identified, a school site that was adjacent to Hancock Road. After reviewing that site, seeing some issues, and some concerns about our ability to access that site without traffic backing up onto Hancock Road. We took another look at it, and there is an adjacent regional park site that was also part of the original development that seemed to serve the purposes of a school better in conjunction with the park. So basically, the original school site is the one closer to the road to North Hancock. The new school site in consideration is part of the 60-acre regional park that's basically across the street. Took some pictures. It's really hard to get a really good picture of this. You'd have to kind of see it for yourself, as Mr. Mathias can attest. The school site that was originally near North Hancock is very low. There's the reason why they call it the Hills of Mineola. It was kind of sunken into a depression. The developer has since added about 10 feet of fill dirt, and it's probably still 15 to 20 feet below the road surfaces. So we've really had a lot of concerns about our ability to access that with school buses without giving up a lot of land for grading and those access roads. So we've had discussion with the city, and as we said, we are looking at the adjacent, part of the adjacent regional park site. So basically, these are some pictures of that site. There's still some terrain, but it's a little bit easier to get into. It's a little bit flatter once you get into it. And part of the benefit is we had a basic master plan done. And part of the benefit is that we can come in off of one road, and that road can actually go back into the park site. North of it, they'll be able to turn around, come back to the south, and stack that way. It'll keep traffic off of, once that is constructed, it'll keep traffic off of those neighborhood roads, Keystone Pass Boulevard, and that area. And so it will improve the traffic circulation. We'll be able to have some joint use of the park and the school sports facilities. And we felt like all around this was just a better site. So we've been having discussions with the city about the process of swapping those sites and then having the site dedicated to the school board so that we can move forward with the design and construction process and hopefully make that August 2024 opening date. So the MOU originally started off as a discussion of the attendance boundary for this site. And if you remember back when we did the attendance boundary adjustment for Aurelia Cole, there was some discussion with the city about our ability to keep students in Mineola, within Mineola. So we had made a commitment that within the, our original offer was to make a commitment that within the bounds of the law, that we would do our best to keep those students, to keep this school serving the students of Mineola. The city had come back and they added some things to the Memorandum of Understanding. And so we have revised it. We felt like there were a lot of things that were not necessarily the school board's purview. To add to that, some park improvements that we felt were not really, well, first of all, we're paying for this with impact fees. So there's limitations on what we can actually build with those impact fees. They have to be school related. So there were some things. There's been some revisions back and forth. We just provided our revised version to the city on Thursday, and so they have not had a chance to, I think, fully review it and get back to us. But we wanted to go ahead and talk to you about it. Basically, the key points of the MOU are that the owner shall deed the school board within 30 days, so that basically then we can start that design and construction process. We are really concerned about the lead times on materials, want to get started as early as possible. That we will coordinate school site design with the city. We have an interlocal agreement that already controls that, and so we will abide by that. We will work together on related traffic improvements as long as they provide for no additional financial obligation to the school board. That is also a statutory thing. We will certainly provide our support behind those, but we can't pay for off-site improvements. And the school board, the thought process, and I think we still need to discuss this with the city, is that we would build our entry road, but eventually that entry road becomes the road for the park site. And so we don't necessarily want to have final maintenance and responsibility for that site. So we build it and we turn it over to the city for the end of that. The city also would like to connect to, there's a parallel road, Triple E Road, that's off to the east side of that. They would like to connect to that, so we don't necessarily want to own a thoroughfare, if that makes sense. So we would like to do that, and then we will meet our original offer is to make all efforts to structure the attendance boundary zone to allow this school to serve students residing in the city. And then also there's some joint use possibilities for school facilities and the park facilities, but those are better dealt with in a joint use agreement versus this memorandum of understanding. So those are really the key points, and I think Mr. Mathias has been very involved in this process. I don't know if he has any comments on it or if you have any questions, but we just want to make you aware of what was going on.
I do have a couple comments, Madam Chair. Yeah. I first want to compliment the district staff. Mr. Carr, Kelly, you'll have no better wing person than Kelly and I when we stand before the city council at Mineola. And sometimes it got a little heated, right? a little bit. But our entire staff has worked tirelessly to make the commitment that the superintendent and I met when we met with the developer to make it happen by 2024. And we should all be proud of the hard work that you've done, Kelly, and all of our staff has done to bring us to this point. The site pivot was based on, when we first went out, because they've added about 10 feet, our school would have been in a hole about 30 feet, is what they gave to us. And the comment that was made by one of the councilmen, what is his name?
Mr. Saunders?
Saunders. Mr. Saunders said he would have no backing up on Hancock. That was what he said. Mr. Carr said, oh, there's going to be backing up on Hancock based on where we are, which started this whole pivot for the site. And the site now is, I think, brilliant, the work that's been done. And literally, Kelly made a phone call to our land planner or site planner.
I'm going to give Dave and John credit for that,
They-
but.
Within a week, they turned it around so that Kelly and I could meet with their council again. We adjusted. Everyone has been stellar on our side. We now have a document that I think is more than fair, and that when we present it to them, or when we vote on it, I guess, I am really solid with, we've conceded where we could, and within statute and some other restrictions, there's things that we couldn't do. Their document they sent over was 13 pages?
11.
11, with a whole lot of opportunities for change, and that we have sorted it through, and this is what we believe is fair for everybody. And it keeps us on track with the development. Any procrastination on this by anyone, that then I shook hands on this. By 2024, we'd have a school. Anything that goes beyond this, them meeting and us meeting, will jeopardize that. And so I hope that they're willing to accept where we are right now.
Thank you for your leadership on it too, Mr. Mathias, and working alongside them.
It's all been about staff. I got to tell you, our entire staff as wing people are amazing.
It's awesome. Great.
He's really been out there. He's been the voice for the district, so
Great.
don't let him be too modest.
Okay, we won't.
But are there any questions on it?
I just had a question on zoning. How does, like, obviously, the developer will want the students and their development to go to the school. Will the zone extend past the development?
So we'll have to
does
go
that-
through a regular attendance boundary adjustment process. We all know how everybody loves those, but that will be.
They're amazing.
Super fun for all of us. That will be next year, so we'll go through that process. We'll look at the numbers at that point. Like we said when we did Aurelia Cole, the charters really just kind of throw off charters and choice, throw everything off. I think that eventually the zone really will just kind of contract to serve that Mineola area. What it will look like initially, I don't, it's a little early yet to say what that's gonna look like.
So being that it's early, do you feel comfortable with this commitment about pledging that the zone would primarily or really be Mineola residents? I guess.
I think we can do our best. I mean, will it go beyond Mineola? Possibly. I mean, the Ferndale is right there.
Right.
So, it's not to say that it couldn't serve students beyond Mineola, obviously. But to keep Mineola students primarily within Mineola schools, I think we can, I wouldn't agree to this if I wasn't comfortable that I think we could
With
get
where it's
there.
located and the entire demographics, and with what the Hills is going to look like, it's a natural that regardless of any attendance boundary, we went through a contentious one, obviously, which we all feel the scab comes off. But this one naturally serves the kids in many of that community.
Well, that was my inclination. I don't see us zoning students from Claremont that way, or Groveland.
No.
But the
Right.
Ferndale was on my radar looking at the map here.
Sure.
And so I guess I'm just not sure of how strong either side perceives this language, that if students from Ferndale are zoned to attend this school, will the city of Mineola say, wait a second here, those are our seats. These Ferndale kids aren't supposed to go there.
Well, I think as long as Mineola is zoned for it, I think they would probably be okay with Ferndale also being in it. If I excluded Mineola students in favor of Ferndale students, that would probably
That would be a
an
huge
issue.
problem.
That would
And that's
be an
not where we
issue.
are. You're absolutely right.
But, Ferndale, so Sugarloaf, which is also in Mineola and is north of this area, also I have to consider them. So they would be in that area as well, And Ferndale kind of gets wrapped up in there geographically, right? So I think we can work it out.
Good job.
Any other questions, board members?
Nope. Amazing.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate that.
No,
Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
It's exciting.
I know that one was that was just for informational purposes, correct, Superintendent? She said she'd
That
bring
is
it back.
correct.
Yeah, okay. So we are on the superintendent's report.
So just few quick things. I had 2 letters of condolence that were sent out. Gail Sikkema, she's the administrative assistant for Mr. Farnsworth. Her father, Rodney Coster Sr., passed away, so we sent a letter to her family, and also to the family of Angelo Morales, who was the custodian at Cypress Ridge Elementary, who passed away. Condolence to his family. And April is certainly a very busy time of the year, but I wanted to take a minute to just say thank you to our media specialists and all our volunteers and assistant principals. School Library Month and Volunteer Appreciation Month both fall in April, and last week we celebrated National Assistant Principals Week, so I just want to say thank you to those folks and appreciate the job that they do for us, and that's all I have tonight.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mathias?
I'm totally good, thank you.
Mrs. Cunningham?
I would just like to concur with Mr. Mathias that, once again, our staff has stepped up. I want to say a personal thank you to Dr. Landry. She arranged a visit for me to Tavares High School, and I am now much more up to speed on mental health and very excited about the things we're able to do. I also want to take this time to thank the community. I was a part of several things last week where community members presented things to our schools. The MLK Committee in Leesburg presented Oak Park with a cash award of $500, and Beverly Shores received several $1,000s of uniforms, clothing, school supplies, and other things from the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So we do have a lot of people in our community that are stepping up and very willing to donate to our schools and to our students. Tavares High School will be having their academic honors night next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to that. I'm very humbled to say I've been asked to be the speaker, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham.
I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, so I had a chance to go visit Lake Point Academy this past week, and being really kind of a pioneer in K-8 for us was a very exciting visit to get to see it in action, and had a chance to kind of pick the principal's brain about what have we learned, what are some of the surprises we've had with the K-8, because certainly we didn't seem to know everything that was going to happen before we opened or built the school, and they've learned a lot of really interesting things, and as we just I guess embark on this building of so many other schools, and so many of them are going to be K-8 models. I think there's just a lot of learnings and takeaways that we'll have from that experience. But overall, it was a very refreshing visit, and the principal, Ms. Steenken, has such a great rapport with her students, and it was just so refreshing to check out a school in action and see the kids happily learning. So there was that, and then the other item I just wanted to note is. And I know Dwayne is on this one, so thank you. Some of the email challenges, apparently, and I don't know to what extent you all are experiencing them as well, but last week or so, the superintendent forwarded me an email from somebody, and I guess it just landed in my junk email. I had no idea that a constituent was emailing, and then I just happened to have dinner with somebody last night who said, hey, I know somebody who's been trying to reach the board and the superintendent for like 6 weeks. They've been sending emails and nobody's responded. I said, well, who is it? And I'm like, I see nothing in my email, nothing. And so I eventually reached out to the guy, and he was still having trouble getting through. I even emailed him and said, okay, now that I'm initiating contact, see if you could reply. And he was still having trouble. And so it just makes me wonder how many other constituents are having that similar trouble out there. And so, Dwayne, I appreciate any look that you can do on that. And I guess that's just kind of a message to the public. If you've emailed one of us, haven't gotten a response, it's probably not that we're ignoring you, but it could be hiding in some random folder or that we have not received it. So try again.
Your pause was just at the right time, because you said it could be. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you're like, oh, in some message. It's funny. It's a good pause.
I totally ignore them.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody who came to the Women for Education. I know the superintendent was there as well. And if you guys were to look at the cast of people that participate in that event, there's nobody that does an event like Carmen and the Education Foundation. And there are community supporters from every part of this county that take place from every profession. Chuck Broadway is my caddy every year, and he's fantastic. He comes out to support. There's so many people there that I don't even want to name them because we'll leave them out. But the fact that they raised $17,000 for education is amazing, and it's a really good time. So kudos to them. And I also wanted to, I know Mr. Bryant mentioned the students at the fair, but we do have a lot of students that are representing us in the fair this week, and they are showing their animals, and it's quite fun. I've participated this year for the first time, and it's quite a unique experience. We even got to see a goat give birth. You know, things I've never seen.
That's cool.
Can't make it up. So if you get a chance, get to the fair. I will say this, I feel like every year our fair opens up during our testing calendar window, and that is always a concern to me, and I don't think I've ever said anything out loud. So while I'm thinking about it, it pained me to know that the kids were taking FSA and then the fair was opening up, and I think I feel that way every year. So I don't know if, I know that state mandates the guidelines for the testing calendar, but if that's something that we can maybe avoid or partner up on, it'd probably be good. So that's all I have.
You know, in Osceola County, they get rodeo day off.
See?
Madam Chairman, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I
Yes, ma'am.
forgot one of the most important events.
Please.
I happened to attend it last week. And I was there with the superintendent and Ms. Pearson and also Carmen, I think she's gone. But we were invited to Leesburg Elementary. They had a tea, and we, along with some other people, were their speakers. And it was quite interesting. And I tell you, these ladies that are in the room with me that were there, they have some very interesting stories. So you'll have to ask them to share with you their phenomenal women stories that they shared with the parents and the community at Leesburg Elementary last week.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot
No,
that.
I'm glad that you did. I'm glad
Wait,
that you
I
did.
forgot something too.
Please. You guys know it's 7 o'clock. I'm just kidding.
There was no, this will be really quick.
Go ahead.
That the idea of Donuts with Dads
Yeah.
came up recently, and my company's going to sponsor it, but I did not know that you had started it.
Yes, sir.
And
Sorrento.
Love it.
Yep.
Long
yep.
time ago.
Long time. Well, it seems like yesterday.
It
So I want to
does.
give credit where credit's due.
Thank you.
And this will be a great opportunity to feature
cool, Molly.
dads and
Yeah.
parents and mentors for these young men and women. So, or actually men, women aren't allowed.
Okay, anybody else? I'm going to give another opportunity for board member comments. Superintendent, Mr. Johnson. I said 7 o'clock because Eustis has a really big game tonight. They're playing Lake Brantley, and Lake Brantley is ranked pretty high up there, so it's a big game. Hopefully a big crowd. We're white out tonight. That's why I look like this. So
Let's go on.
if you don't have anything to do, 7 o'clock, it's $5 to get in. Meeting adjourned.
Executive session, and so we're going to ask everyone to vacate quickly so that Ms. Smith
Quickly.
can get to her